A woman steps into the street and begins to dance. No music, no rhythm, just a wild, frantic flailing of limbs. At first, people laugh, but then slowly they start to join in. Within days, dozens are dancing. Within weeks, hundreds. The dancing frenzy goes on non-stop for days. Their feet start bleeding. Some collapse from exhaustion, others from thirst and hunger. Many die after days of continuous dancing. But what could cause a crowd to dance themselves to death? Possession? Poison? Mass hysteria? Or something even stranger? This is the story of the dancing plague of 1518. Over 500 years ago in 1518, the city of Strasbourg was gripped by an epidemic unlike any other. Known today as the Dancing Plague of 1518, it's one of the most baffling medical mysteries in history. And it all began with a single woman, Frau Troffea. One summer morning in July, she stepped outside and began to dance. Not gracefully, not joyfully, but compulsively. Jerking, twisting, moving uncontrollably for hours on end. She didn't stop that evening, nor the next day. Witnesses said she looked terrified, as though her body had become a puppet, her limbs no longer her own. Within a week, 30 more people had joined her, then 100, then 400. Men, women, even children, all thrashing about in the summer heat. Some screamed for help between steps, others seemed to be in a trance. City officials were stunned. Priests prayed. Physicians were baffled. And then, the first deaths were reported. Heart attacks, strokes, pure exhaustion. People were dancing until their bodies literally gave out. Strangely, the deaths didn't stop more people from joining in. In fact, the crowd only grew. The initial responses to this dancing mania range from fascination to fear. Medieval society, steeped in superstition and religious fervor, was quick to interpret the scene through a spiritual lens. Some believed it was a form of divine punishment. As the numbers of afflicted dancers grew, the urgency to find an explanation intensified. These dancers exhibited a range of symptoms: frenzied and uncontrolled movements, apparent oblivion to pain or fatigue. With the situation quickly getting out of hand, authorities finally took charge, despite having only a limited understanding of the root cause behind the phenomenon. The first step taken by the city's authorities was to physically contain the dancers. Public spaces where the dancing was most rampant were cordoned off, and the afflicted were initially left alone and unattended, under the assumption that their energies would eventually wane. However, the resulting deaths escalated public fear and urgency. While the dancers showed no signs of stopping, the city turned to physicians and barber surgeons for answers, who concluded that the afflicted were suffering from overheated blood and a dangerous imbalance in the body's humors. In ancient medical theory, body humors referred to 4 basic bodily fluids: blood, phlegm, and 2 types of bile. These fluids were believed to control health, personality, and even behavior. Nutritional guidelines were issued to the public, and some of the afflicted were force-fed specific foods thought to rebalance the body's humors. There were also instances where bloodletting was employed, based on the theory that if it could rid the body of excess fluids believed to contribute to the mania. When that also didn't work, the officials did something bold and unusual. They built a stage, hired musicians, and even brought in professional dancers, believing the act of dancing could be organized, controlled, and ultimately exhausted. It didn't. It got worse. Many more started joining in. Eyewitnesses claimed the music only seemed to deepen the trance. Dancers moved with greater intensity, some foaming at the mouth, eyes rolled back. When nothing seemed to work, the authorities sought guidance from the clergy. The religious leaders interpreted the dancing plague as a manifestation of divine displeasure. They believed the afflicted were victims of Saint Vitus's curse, a widely held medieval belief that Saint Vitus could compel sinners to dance against their will. To combat the supposed curse, religious leaders organized collective atonement and public prayers, hoping to appease the saint. Mass processions and prayers were conducted to purify the city and seek divine intervention. Additionally, the authorities sanctioned pilgrimages, encouraging the afflicted to visit places dedicated to Saint Vitus in the hope that spiritual healing might alleviate their plight. At the same time, some thought it was demonic possession. Others whispered about witches and dark forces lurking in the mountains. Remember, this was the 16th century. Science was scarce. Fear was abundant. And when hundreds of people started dancing themselves to death, explanations, no matter how strange, started to sound plausible. The mania lasted till September, and eventually as summer waned, so did the dancing plague. It is plausible that the combination of religious fervor, physical containment, and eventual physical exhaustion among the dancers led to the gradual cessation of the mania, but we can't know for sure. The general public likely believed that their prayers and penance had pacified divine wrath, but the actual cause still remains a mystery. And modern historians and scientists have tried to unravel with possible explanations. One popular theory is ergot poisoning. Ergot is a toxic fungus that can grow on damp rye. When consumed, it produces hallucinations, muscle spasms, and convulsions, similar to LSD. Could the townspeople have all eaten contaminated bread? It's possible. But ergot usually causes people to collapse, not to dance for weeks, and it doesn't spread like a contagious disease. Another theory is mass psychogenic illness, also known as mass hysteria. The early 1500s were rife with famine and poverty. Crop failures, primarily due to adverse weather conditions, led to severe food shortages. This was aggravated by the fact that Europe was still recovering from the Black Death, which had decimated the population in the mid-14th century. The resultant gaps in the labor force disrupted economies, and plagues continued to recur. The land, often overworked and unyielding, contributed to a cycle of hunger and despair among the peasantry. The convergence of these social, economic, and environmental pressures created a fertile ground for mass hysteria. Could the dancing have been a psychological break, shared by hundreds? Some experts believe it was a form of collective trauma, that the brain, pushed beyond its limits, can manifest physical symptoms. Dancing might have been a subconscious cry for help, or an escape. But mass hysteria events typically burn out quickly. They don't last for months, and they don't usually kill dozens. The dancing plague of 1518 remains one of the strangest medical mysteries in human history. Was it a physical illness, a psychological escape, a spiritual curse? Or was it something we still don't understand? Let us know in the comments what you think, and if you've heard of any other mysterious events like this. If you found this story as bizarre as we did, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more strange chapters from our past. As always, thanks for watching.